Hello out there and welcome back. In this video, we're going to be listening to two more chapters from No Sure Thing, a Gen X coming of age novel set in 1988. In the chapters that follow, the person who was stalking Scott and Paul who was alluded to in the previous video, catches up with them. And as we're going to find out, one of the two of them is in trouble. So let's jump into the next two chapters. Chapter 2. Immediately before us were the late 19th century contours of the College of Engineering. The front facade of the engineering building vaguely resembled a castle. The central wing of the building had a crenellated roof. Not that either of us was heading for a class there. Scott and I were both economics majors. Or to be more precise about it, I was majoring in economics, and Scott had tentatively declared economics as his major because he had no other specified direction. But that's another story. We both heard the campus cop before we saw him. "Hold up a minute, boys," intoned a deep, rumbling voice just beside us. The voice conveyed the confident weight of authority. There was also some age to the voice. This was no fellow undergraduate bidding us to pause and attend to him. We were being told to halt. We both stopped and turned in the direction of the voice. When I saw who it was, my heart sank a little. My heart sinks whenever I am approached by a law enforcement officer. It always has. I never do anything illegal, but the mere presence of a police officer in your midst never means that something good is in store for you, does it? That was true even of a campus police officer in December 1987. And this campus police officer was no one to trifle with. Officer Oliver Benson was an institution at the University of Cincinnati. A tall man in his mid-50s, Officer Benson still exuded the edge and vitality of a man 2 decades younger. He wore his campus police uniform like a general in the army. "Officer Benson," Scott said, recognizing the man too. "How can we help you?" Scott's tone was excessively solicitous, just on the verge of outright sarcasm. I sensed that this encounter might go south very quickly. Ever since we were kids, I had been watching Scott push his luck when talking to authority figures of all kinds. But he might have met his match here. "Be careful, Scott," I thought, even as I remained silent. "Actually," Officer Benson said, "I want to talk to you, Mr. Peak." "Me?" Scott said with outward incredulity. I was mentally projecting at him. Knock it off already. But I was also relieved that Officer Benson did not have any business with me, at least not yet. "This is no laughing matter," Officer Benson declared. He extended toward Scott a Polaroid. From my vantage point, I could see that it was a photo of Scott's blue 1983 Chevette. "Is this your car, Mr. Peak?" Officer Benson said. "I believe it is," Scott replied. "Uh-huh," Benson confirmed. "The car and the license number are listed in your name in the Parking and Transportation Services records." "Then it must be my car," Scott said cheerily. Officer Benson said nothing in reply. "I have a current permit sticker," Scott added. "Indeed you do," Benson agreed. He grinned, his toothy smile ice cold. "But that isn't the problem, is it, Mr. Peak?" Scott made no reply, and Officer Benson closed in. "This morning I found your car parked in the East Faculty parking lot." Now I understood the nature of Scott's parking innovation. "Have you been hired as a professor, Mr. Peak?" Officer Benson pressed. "No, sir," Scott said. but your vehicle had a faculty parking pass on the dashboard. I think we both know where you got that pass, don't we? It's one of my father's parking passes, Scott admitted. Scott's father was a mathematics professor at the University of Cincinnati. This gave Scott free or nearly free tuition, but he wasn't supposed to park in the faculty parking lots. And you know the rules? Officer Benson asked. Students aren't supposed to take spaces in faculty parking lots. That includes the children of faculty. I know the rules, Scott affirmed. Yet you broke the rules and parked in the faculty parking lot. That puzzles me, Mr. Peak. Why would you do such a thing? Scott now realized that he was cornered. I was running late for class this morning, and so I grabbed one of my dad's parking passes as I was leaving the house. You shouldn't have done that, Officer Benson said. No, I shouldn't have done that. This should have been the end of it. At this point, Officer Benson should have either A, issued Scott a parking ticket, or B, dropped the matter and moved on. But like I said, Scott had a way of getting under the skin of anyone in a position of authority. And people in authority sometimes like to get under Scott's skin right back. People like Officer Benson. Chapter 3. I could take this to your father, Officer Benson went on, but I thought I'd take it up with you first. I appreciate you doing that, Officer Benson, Scott said. No sense in getting my dad involved. Benson glowered. I didn't say that your father won't be informed. What I mean is, I wanted to give you a chance to face your mistakes like a grown man before I speak to him. How old are you now, son? Scott could have given him a straight answer, but that wasn't Scott's way. To my near disbelief, Scott chuckled. Officer Benson, I could tell, was also surprised at Scott's reaction. The campus cop's eyes narrowed. This was not going well. Son? Scott said. Officer Benson, don't take this the wrong way, but I don't think that anyone is going to believe that the two of us are related. Not with my pasty white complexion. Officer Benson's glare could have melted granite. Though I stayed put, I was tempted to just walk away at this point. I should mention, Officer Benson was African American. Officer Benson, it was well known around campus, had fought in the 187th U.S. Airborne during the Korean War. He returned to a country that still treated him as a second-class citizen, even after his military service. Benson was therefore also a veteran of the civil rights movement of the 1960s. Scott and I, meanwhile, were suburban white kids from Cincinnati's west side. We didn't think of ourselves as spoiled or coddled, but Officer Benson would have had a very different opinion. There were multiple reasons why Officer Benson wouldn't want to take back talk from either of us. I'm 19, Scott finally said, answering Officer Benson's question. Benson had not made any reply to Scott's thinly veiled reference to their racial differences. 19 is old enough to follow the rules, Benson said. Do you know what I was doing when I was 19? Word has it that you were serving in the Korean War, Scott said. Benson nodded. That's right. And in the Army, we learn to follow the rules. College kids need to learn to follow the rules, too. I'm sorry, Officer Benson. Benson ignored Scott's apology, which struck even me as insincere. You know, Mr. Peak, you shouldn't be thinking that you can get away with murder just because your father is a professor at this institution. Now Scott had had enough. He was no longer amused as he had been only a minute ago. Oh, come on now, Officer Benson. A parking violation is hardly comparable to murder. Officer Benson took a deep breath, controlling his temper with visible effort. Scott might have finally gone too far. And perhaps even he realized this. It won't happen again, Officer Benson. Scott said hurriedly. And like I already told you, I'm sorry. Thanks for listening. One little annotation before I leave you today. As I said in the first video, even though this is not an autobiographical story, it is based on a setting that I actually experienced. And one thing I do remember about going to UC in the late 1980s, probably still the same, is that it was often difficult to find a parking space on campus if you were a commuter student. Whereas Scott and Paul commute to UC from the western suburbs of Cincinnati, I was coming in from the eastern suburbs. I do remember one day in 1987 when I went outside after class and I could not find my car. And I looked all around the parking lot and I couldn't find my car. And I thought, am I going crazy? Did I, I was only 19, so I knew that early senility was probably not the cause. But my car just wasn't there. And I probably spent 30 minutes looking around. And so finally, I went to the campus parking services office. And I dealt with not Officer Benson, who is a fictional character, but some guy who was working the desk there. And they told me that they had impounded my car because I had parked in the wrong place. Now, I had not deliberately parked in a faculty parking place like Scott does in the story, but it was I was somewhere where I shouldn't have been. And rather than just giving me a ticket, they went ahead and impounded my car. And I owed them, in order to get my car back, I owed them a fine of $50. Well, that was a pretty tidy sum in 1987, and I didn't have that on me. And this was before the typical 19-year-old had a credit card, so I had no choice. I had to call my parents and have them come and basically bail me out of jail or bail my car out of jail anyway. So I guess I've always had kind of a lingering bad feeling about the parking services at the University of Cincinnati. But anyway, that's kind of an example of some of these old memories sometimes come back in our fiction in different ways. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Remember, if you can get the full version of No Sure Thing in paperback and Kindle on Amazon, but you're welcome to just continue listening to the chapters here as well. Thanks for tuning in. I will talk to you again soon.